Okay, it's spreading yellow time around here. Urban Phenom, B-double-E, Cash Simmons.
You know who
We
it is.
for the tail right here. Come on,
I hold it down for the city that I'm at. That's Kansas City boy in the middle of the map, yeah. And I'm KC stunting. Welcome to the town, homie. You don't want nothing, no. And if you cut me, I would probably bleed.
Addicts, welcome back once again to another episode of AA Radio. I believe this one is titled episode number 9. We're going to call this the 7-0 episode. Jason Seibel with you as always, assistant editor over at arrowheadaddict.com. And with me, as has become quite the custom, and now with video, the sexy man that he is, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Chris Kilduff. What's up, Chris?
I know. I got my audio-video guys finally figuring stuff up over here. Got them setting up, make sure everything works, so you guys can see my pretty face. See the 7-0 beard. I was just telling Jason before this all started that I'm not shaving until we lose. So with that and going into No Shave November, man, I might be getting Sean McGrath up in here.
Yeah, you definitely got it going on, man. With my job, I can't. I mean, I've got 2 days. I took the last 2 days off of work, so this is all I can do. But it's all got to come off Sunday night, so it kind of sucks. But hey, it's all good. I'm there in spirit, man, and you can definitely rock the 7-0 beard for us. Chiefs 7-0, Chris. You obviously, nobody expected this. Real quick, man. Thoughts on being here almost at the midpoint of the season?
Man, it's wonderful. It's so exciting. For so long, and we've said it week to week, but it's always been so frustrating being a Chiefs fan, and you're always looking for the little things that are driving you crazy and not being able to get the W's, and even getting those close games and then just losing it at the last second. And we're doing everything opposite this year. Every single time it feels like, oh, we're just starting to fall away. Somebody comes through, something happens, the heart actually comes through, and somebody makes a big play. And it's exciting for a Chiefs fan. It's exciting for a football fan, I would think. How many times do you hear about, such a no-name team, worst in the league to top of the league? Like, I know we'll get into power rankings and stuff later, but man, that's crazy. Just going, first to last, last to first.
Well, and you're right. This is an absolutely unprecedented turnaround. Never has there been a team that finished with the last record in the league overall that has started the season 7-0. The Chiefs have broken the record on that one, and they continue to. I mean, every week that they win since I think 4-0. I think 4-0 was the last stop on that train. They continue to break that record and increase that record, and here they are 7-0 going into another game this weekend. But before we get to that point, let's take a look at what has transpired and what went on last Sunday when the Houston Texans, who have been a perennially good team, came into Arrowhead and faced the Chiefs. Obviously, Chiefs getting the win on that with their second score of the year of 17-16. Yeah, quite the game. What were your initial thoughts on that game, Chris?
You know what? We talked about it last week. It being tricky. We didn't really know who was going to be starting there, and Case Keenum ended up starting there. And so when you're coming in with a new quarterback like that, I was really weary. He had a lot of good video in college. I have a buddy. Shout out to Joe Halverson, who writes over on the East Coast for a bunch of different college syndicate stuff. And the first thing I did is chase him down, and I asked him, I was like, hey, man, what's the word with this Keenum guy? Because I follow college to a point, but I'm a pro guy, and he's the opposite. He's a complete college guy all around. He has published stuff in like college books and a bunch of different things, and he kind of gave me the rundown, and so I knew the kid was going to be good. I'm a little bit excited for the Texans, from here on out, giving him a couple starts. I think he brings a little bit of life back to that team a little bit, but we were just too much for him. I mean, I was pretty excited, watching the game. I know you predicted a loss, so what did you think? Were you happy you pulled that one out?
Well, obviously, I mean, I was happy and understand and to kind of recap for the Attic listeners here on AA Radio, and if we've got new listeners, welcome to the ride. For all the listeners that are out there, sorry we're a couple days late, some scheduling conflicts, but just we'll get it out there to you by rain or by shine. But with me predicting a loss last week, as I did with the Giants game at the beginning of the season, when I sat down and I looked at this schedule, I had the Chiefs going 10-6. So as we've gone through this, I have, even against my better judgment almost, I have stuck by the losses that I said originally that they were going to get, just to kind of try to keep myself humble. So that's why I predicted the loss against the Texans, despite the way that they had been playing up to that point. Plus, I mean, it's a hungry football team coming in for a win. Their head coach, Gary Kubiak, kind of said that they were looking for a spark, and they got it to some degree, like you said, Chris, with the rookie quarterback, Case Keenum. I really thought that game was kind of a tale of two halves. The first half, the Chiefs' offense, I think, looked probably close to the best it has all season in the first half of that football game. Some really nice drives. Obviously, the drive down, Charles in for the touchdown, and then the the now infamous ghost fake play that nobody is quite sure. Was it designed that way? Was it drawn up that way? Did Charles go the wrong way? Did Smith turn the wrong way?
I'll tell you, I watched that a few times because when it first happened, I just exclaimed. I was like, what was that? Like, I think everybody did and was so confused. But I rewatched the replay a lot of times in this, and I don't know if they said anything because I didn't catch any of the post-conference stuff on it, but that looked designed. Like, it looked, all the blocking schemes, the way it all blocked, Jamal Charles didn't think twice, blocked his assignment, and Alex Smith just stood there for about 2 seconds and then just walked in. And, like, although you wouldn't design a play like that, really, like, I don't know why you would do that, it looked 100% designed.
Well, and I think that goes along with what a lot of guys that get paid to do this think as well. They said, Andy Reid is a genius, and why not do something like that where it looks like a broken play and just confuses the hell out of the defense, which I think is exactly what it did. I think the defense went, had the same reaction as we all did, like, what's going on? And then, Smith walks 5 yards into the end zone. But yeah, I think it was a tale of two halves. Houston comes out firing, nice, beautiful pass, and I'll give the kid props, Case Keenum. He's got a beautiful touch pass as he hit that rookie DeAndre Hopkins in the back of the end zone on that touchdown that they scored. Chiefs come storming right back, touchdown Jamal Charles, a field goal, and then the touchdown from Alex Smith, and it's like, but then the defense, the Chiefs' defense in the first half, not getting any pressure on Case Keenum, not what we have kind of grown to expect from this defense. No, not really any sacks. The secondary playing off a little bit, allowing this guy to hit some really big pass plays. I mean, the play before the touchdown pass that set it up, I think it was in the 30, 35, 39-yard range pass play, and then the long pass for the touchdown. So, Sean Smith. Let me preface that by saying that I think that with the way that this defense is set up and this attacking style, it lends itself to giving up some of those big plays, and that happens. But one thing that we haven't seen a whole lot this season is Sean Smith getting burned, and he got burned pretty good. So I don't know, exactly what broke down, but one thing about this team that we've seen this year that has been lacking, at least on the defensive side of the ball, is the ability to make those halftime adjustments. And to me, at least, sitting at home watching it on my couch, it looked like defensive coordinator Bob Sutton said, okay, we let them have their fun in the first half. Now we're going to unleash, the hell of our pass rush on these guys. And, I mean, it showed. Tamba Hawley, 2 strip sacks. Obviously the second one that kind of sealed the victory at the end of the game. Justin Houston, Brandon Flowers getting his first sack of the season, and I think perhaps his career. I don't think Brandon Flowers has ever had a sack. I think I saw something about that in the post, the post game stuff. So, the Chiefs defense kind of did what it does in that second half and just closed the door on these guys and just gave them absolutely nowhere to go.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. I think something needs to be said that, with that first half in preparation, there's not a lot, there's no tape on Keenum, so you're going a little bit by what probably some of the officials in Kansas City know about the kid, what they've scouted on the kid, but there's no video to figure out what's going to be his weaknesses and his powers in the NFL. So that first half, I think luckily our offense stepped it up really well, but it was more of a learning time for the defense. That there has to be a little bit of swing there where you figure out, okay, and luckily Sutton's awesome enough to be able to put a game plan together, obviously, by halftime. But Keenum, like you were saying, great passer. He had 150 touchdowns in Texas, and in the second half when he came out, I think obviously one thing that really helped us out was losing Foster. When they lost Foster and he went down, then the whole second half, I think it really hurt their pass game a little bit. Even Foster's their running back, but they didn't have the check down option that they love to do there. And Foster catches as many balls as he does running the ball. So when they lost that, I think that was a really kind of a shot for them and allowed our defense to be a little bit more aggressive because we didn't have those screens and checkdowns to worry about as much.
Yeah, I mean, Foster going out of the game as early as he did definitely affected their game plan. I said it in an article I posted prior to the game, and I'll say it again. The backup running back in Houston, Ben Tate, he would be a starter on just about any other team.
For sure.
He just happens to be starting behind Arian Foster, but that guy's good, and but he got banged up. He broke, I think, 6 ribs is what I read after the game, and he was out for a little while getting that taped up, and they really had no other running option. I think that they were down to their fullback because they only had 2 actual halfbacks activated for the game. So, losing those 2 guys, bang bang. I mean, that's going to kill you. When you got no rushing attack. Chiefs fans are very aware of that. 2011 losing Jamal Charles for the season. And it's like, our next best option is Jackie Battle. I mean, good guy, good goal line rusher, but doesn't have the chops that Jamal Charles does. And
yeah. And, I mean, that's another thing you got to say about Kansas City. I mean, you never want to be, excited that you've hurt another player on another team. I don't think anybody wants that. But it goes to show, I mean, even last year with being as bad as we were, we were such a physical football team. We were hurting the other teams all throughout the year. I mean, and this year we've done a lot of that too, where we've been banging people up. And, it sucks to say, but it says something about the defense, and it says that, we're a physical defense, and if you're going to try and, push the ball down our throat, we're coming after you, and we're going to hit you. And so I think that detracts a little bit from some teams trying to do some of that because they're trying to keep their guys healthy.
Yeah, these guys are hard hitters. I mean, this defense, like I said, and we'll talk quite a bit more about the defense here in a little bit. But just kind of finish this up, if you look at some of the stats, and I want to get your take on how do you think, obviously the big question, still, or the question mark, I should say, on this offense, in a lot of people's minds, not everybody, but a lot of people's minds, is Alex Smith. Stat line went like this: 23 completions on 34 attempts, so much better percentage than he has been hitting. 240 total yards, didn't throw any touchdowns, did throw a pick on a misread play, and then but probably to me the bigger stat: 6 attempts on the ground, 28 yards, including that big 23-yarder that he had, and then the touchdown that we talked about earlier. How do you think Smith is coming along? Are you happy with what he's doing, or you think he needs to step it up? He missed a couple opportunities, but we can get into that in a second. But what's your assessment on him?
Well, I'll tell you what. This week, from talking with me in the past shows, I've been pretty adamant about, being displeased about how our offense has looked over the last couple of weeks since the Giants game. The Giants game, I thought we did really well, and then since then, I've been really upset. I think our offense is way more talented than we've actually played. And this last week was the first week since then where I was excited, and we didn't, he didn't throw any touchdowns, but I was excited with how the offense looked. I thought we were marching down the field. I thought we were converting third downs. I thought we were making plays where they need to be played. We had the short stuff. We had the mid-range stuff, and we really made it work. The screen pass, Dexter McCluster is someone to be reckoned with. The Chiefs I think, he's our Darren Sproles. He's our guy who, he doesn't really have a defined position on our team, and when we get him the ball, he makes things happen. He's not the most consistent guy. He's not the best route runner, and he has some of these issues, but he's quick and he's slippery, and when we can do the little things like we've been doing the last couple games and at least getting him the ball 5 to 7 times and making him make stuff happen, that 43-yard screen that he busted in that game, in my opinion, probably won us the game. It was late in the game, and we were 3rd and 20 something. I can't really remember off the top.
Third and 21. It was the old 3rd and 21 play.
Yeah, third and 21, and he busted it for 43, and then we were able to tick off another ton of time off that clock. And so, when we get the ball in his hands, stuff like that happens. And so, I think Alex Smith is, like I said, continuing to learn. I think he's going to continue to put up decent numbers, but we just need to find a way. I think he did kind of get robbed by that McGrath touchdown. Did you think McGrath got in there?
No, he was out of bounds. I think, and honestly, that's the biggest mistake I think that Smith made. That I could probably point to is he hesitated too long to throw that ball. I think he comes out of
about the goal line one, the 1 yard pass. He wasn't out of bounds. It was short of the line.
You're talking Fasano, the
Fasano. I'm sorry, not McGrath. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that was a tough one. As a Chiefs fan, I'd like to say I think he scored the touchdown. But just like I think Phil Simms and Jim Nance said, calling the game, and then the ref said it as well. Just not enough camera angles. That he had his arms wrapped around the ball so tightly that you couldn't really see. But I think it was one of those plays. Had it been called a touchdown, it would have stood. The fact that it wasn't called a touchdown, it's just they didn't have enough evidence. I mean, that was a big one, and I think actually having Fasano back this week really helped the Chiefs out quite a bit. But no, I was referring to the 4th down on the goal line. Smith rolls out and sees McGrath, and I think he hesitated just a hair too long to throw it to McGrath, who had broken away from his defender. And then Smith kind of had the indecision: do I run it in? Do I throw it? He ended up throwing it to McGrath, but too late. McGrath had already kind of traveled out of bounds at that point. So, but I'm on firmly on Team Alex. I think that he is the guy for this team, at least right now. For this season, he was definitely the best choice in the offseason. And definitely has proven his worth on this team. I mean, there's a case to be made to say that he's the leader, hands down. Andy Reid has said it week in and week out, and what's kind of taken, about him to me is the fact that Andy Reid has said he not only leads the offense, he leads the defense. That's something you don't see in a whole lot of teams where the defense reacts to the quarterback's leadership. Generally they tend to rally around one of their own. But he's got them all fired up. He's got them all believing as much as Andy Reid does that they can do this, and something's working. They're 7-0.
Yeah. Well, something that speaks to that a little bit is, and one of the things that I've been trying to keep a closer eye on, and definitely I think was a big bullet point in this game, was the Chiefs' ability to win the field position battle. And that is Alex Smith, 100%. That's him going down, making some of those drives. And when we're staying on the positive side of the field position, we had 4 punt returns for 32 yards, and we had 4 kick returns for 123 yards that game against Texas. Texas had 1 punt return for 6 yards, 1 kick return for 22 yards. So all the other kicks and punts that they had were either fair caught or pinned back. We're not giving teams the chance to, take the ball and go anywhere with it. And so when we're winning that field position, I think that allows the defense to kind of rally behind Alex Smith a little bit and give the defense, that little bit of edge from coming in with the offense winning the field position battle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and Smith has said it himself, and I'll haphazardly quote him here, not the exact quote, but he has said he would rather throw the ball away on a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 10, knowing that they have to punt, knowing that they have one of the best punters in the league, and that they have hands down the best defense in the league, because he's confident that by throwing that ball away, not throwing an interception, that the defense is going to get it back for the offense in short order. I mean, that's a lot of respect that a quarterback has for his defense. You know, you don't see that very often. You don't see that kind of mutual respect where he says, "Look, guys, you know, I'm going to throw it away and essentially give the ball back to the other team, knowing damn well that you're going to get the ball back for me to do something with." You know, and oh, by the way, I know that we've got one of the best punt returners in the league that's going to get me good field position while we're at it. So, you know, the key here is team football. I mean, complementary team football. The offense is firing, the defense is really firing, the special teams is firing. So, but the team, you know, it's made up of quite a few, you know, folks that have been brought in by free agency. But there's still some faces that have been around here for a while, last 4 or 5 years. Several of these faces, and especially several of the ones that we're talking about, these big defenders, defensive players, were guys that were drafted by, you know, one of probably the most hated men in Kansas City, and that's Scott Pioli. His first draft class in 2009, 2 guys still on the roster, still getting it done, Tyson Jackson and Ryan Suckup. You know, everybody talked about Pioli. Everybody talked about his draft picks. And we're going to piss some people off here by talking about this. But, you know, the guy, for what it's worth, I mean, he made some pretty good picks, some guys that are still getting it done. So Tyson Jackson, Ryan Suckup, and I'll talk about this 2009 class real quick. Obviously, Tyson Jackson, kind of a controversial first pick, drafted, you know, high in the first round, 3rd or 4th pick. You know, taking him as a defensive lineman, and he's that late bloomer. He's that guy that doesn't mature until, you know, now. Because he was playing in the wrong kind of defense.
Yeah.
He was playing in the wrong kind of defense. They wanted this guy in this you know, bend but don't break defense that they were playing. They wanted him to suck up the blocks and let the linebackers break free. Which that kind of defense, I guess, has its place, but that's not the kind of player that Tyson Jackson is. You know, but at the same time, fans are calling him a bust because he's not getting sacks and he's not getting pressures on the quarterback when that wasn't really his job. And so, you know, I think this season, out of every season he's played in Kansas City, number one, he's a team player because he restructured his contract and took a huge pay cut this year in order to stay with the team. It was kind of restructure, get cut kind of a deal. And I think he knew that he would have a hard time getting picked up based off of his past performance. So he takes the pay cut to allow more quality players to be brought in. And then, you know, he's really performing. So around here at Arrowhead Addict, we called him the Tin Man for a long time because we didn't feel like he had a heart. I think that he's finally taken the trip to see the Wizard because Tyson Jackson's got his heart for sure. He's found it. And then, of course, Ryan Suckup, Mr. Irrelevant of the 2009 draft class, the last guy taken in the draft. And, I mean, you want to talk about money. This guy is money. I think he's well above 85% right now.
Oh yeah.
On field goals.
He only has one missed field goal up until the Texas game. Did he miss one in Texas?
No.
I can't remember. So he's only missed one this whole year.
He's only missed one this whole year. So, I mean, he's money. You know, when you draft a guy the last pick of the draft, you know, he may or may not pan out. So, you know, this guy has been absolute money this season. You know, so far. So. Those are the only 2 from Pioli's first draft class. Second draft class, the 2010 class, I'll let you talk about that for a little bit, but what I consider, at least in the last 6 years, to be probably the best draft class the Chiefs have. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, you know, for me, I was kind of indifferent on Pioli. You know, I understood what he was going for. It's the same thing that they were, you know, what they're notorious for in New England is bringing in specialty players who do one thing really well and then trying to coach them into doing what they want them to do. So that's kind of what you had with Tyson Jackson, where he was this, you know, specialty player that was, you know, really strong, really fast for his size, and, you know, came in and they were like, okay, well, we'll coach him how to play football. He's not the best football player, but he physically has the talents. And, Pioli had a tendency to do that. The problem was Kansas City didn't have the coaching staff there at the time to really do it. He brought in Todd Haley and Matt Castle and some of these fill-in guys to come in and be a quick fix there, and it just wasn't the right thing going on. But in the 2000 class, Eric Berry, man, I mean, at the time when he got him, I wanted Eric Berry. That's who I was sitting there at that draft day, and I was like, please, let's go with this kid. It was either him or Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden was in that same draft, and I was like, I'll take the corner, but I really wanted Eric Berry there. And then Eric Berry's come in, I think, been as good as anybody. I think he is one of the keys to why our defense is as good as it is. So I've been really excited with him. Dexter McCluster, we already talked about a little bit today. I think he's that kind of secret weapon guy. Not only does he have a huge effect on our special teams, but he's, like I said earlier, kind of our little Darren Sproles, where, he's such a slippery little guy that we can get him out there, and he's been so consistent at, coming in and making the big plays. He might not be that huge standout wide receiver or, this, every down running back like Jamal Charles is, but, he's come in and filled the roles and filled kind of some of those gaps. Kendrick Lewis was in that draft class way later in that draft, and Kendrick Lewis has been a guy, even though he's kind of battled some of the injuries here in the past, he's kind of come in and played, some great football. Kendrick Lewis first started hitting my eye when I started intercepting the ball with him all the time in Madden. He was more than anybody on the Chiefs last year, man. He was catching on Madden. I was like, and then then soon here, within the last 2 years, he's really kind of come on strong. So I've been kind of excited with him too.
Yeah, it's that, like I said, that 2010, and I just on Eric Berry, if he's not already, one more season, and this will be the season to do it, just because they're playing so well. You say Troy Polamalu, everybody knows who Troy Polamalu is. I mean, he's just one of those, prolific players, kind of like Ray Lewis. It doesn't matter if you're not a fan of the Baltimore Ravens or the Pittsburgh Steelers. You say a name like that, a defensive name like that, and people automatically know who that guy is. I think Eric Berry is that guy. I mean, I think that this season is really going to be the season for him to become one of those household names, regardless of what fan base you're talking to. Yeah, definitely a fan. The next year, 2011, taking Rodney Hudson early on as second round to be the center, the kind of the heir apparent to Casey Wiegman. Obviously broke his leg last year and missed pretty much the whole season, but this year hasn't been playing bad. I mean, he's got the starting position. I think our offensive line here for the Chiefs is learning as they go, and they're gelling together. They're still trying to figure each other out and figure out this whole blocking scheme. But and then of course later in the draft, Alan Bailey, who has kind of been that blue collar backup role on that defensive line and played well, has a sack this year, has a couple of QB pressures. So that's something that you definitely appreciate from a later round draft pick and a guy that's playing as a backup role. But I mean, the big name from the 2011 class is obviously Justin Houston, who has just set this town on fire with his play and his rushing skills and getting to the quarterback, especially this season. The last couple seasons, really, but this season, I mean, right now he's number 2 in the league in sacks. It's just, I mean, the guy's amazing. He's really, really good. And the Chiefs stole him in the 3rd round. He was a first-round talent that dropped to the 3rd. There were allegations and talk of that he had some illegal drug use in the combine, and so a lot of teams were kind of hands off on him. And I mean, I think this kid's grown up and he's matured under this under the leadership. I think that a guy like Tom Bahali takes him under his wing. A guy like Derek Johnson takes him under his wing and says, "All right, this is how we do things around here." And I mean, so there you are for 2011. I mean,
yeah,
two starters and a backup guy. So
yeah, can't hate that. And Justin Houston, I kind of had my eye on him a little bit that draft year just because I like to follow Georgia because they always have such a tough defense there, and so I'm a big I love defense. So I was kind of following him, and when we picked him up, I was kind of excited. And it's so tricky now because like Justin Houston started off this year with such a big, heavy hitting year, and now teams are so focused on him that they're losing focus on Tamba Hali, and so now Tamba Hali in the last couple games have come on, so you can't stop both of them. So it's such a nice thing that they have going on there on each end. But the 2012 class, I told you before we started that I kind of wanted to touch base on the 2012 just because I was so upset at our taking of Dontari Poe. I really was not happy. I really wanted Luke Kuechly, who went 2 picks before. I was really hoping we'd hold out and get Kuechly. I watched Luke Kuechly, and I think he's the best linebacker in the league. I think he is fantastic. I think him, Patrick Willis are probably the 2 top guys around. And I had big numbers on Luke Kuechly coming in, and when he went before, I was like, oh man. But then I was thinking, okay, well, Fletcher Cox and Quentin Couples and a couple of these other guys that were out there, and I didn't even have Dontari Poe on my short list at all. And so when they picked Dontari Poe, I was so upset. And then when he came in, we'd had such disappointment the last few years with #1 draft picks. Glenn Dorsey came in, was very unspectacular. Tyson Jackson still, he's kind of turned it up a little bit this year, but at that time, Tyson Jackson wasn't playing good football. Baldwin had come in and done absolutely nothing. So we've kind of had this kind of group of first-round picks that were just really hurting us. And then when we picked Dontari Poe, who was a lot like, to me, Tyson Jackson, where he had the huge stats at the combine, and then they're like, we're going to teach this guy how to play football. And then he came in and had, a not so spectacular first year. I thought it was all downhill, but I got to eat crow because, man, that guy came back and this year has looked spectacular. He's clogging it up with, the big strong arms and, throwing defenders each way, clogging up holes. And then on top of that, man, it's not easy playing in the middle of the defense and pushing through the middle to get sacks like that. And he has, 4.5 now? 5 sacks now?
Yeah, he's at 4.5. But with Dontari Poe, just like with Tyson Jackson, and also with to Glenn Dorsey to some degree, who left this year in free agency. But you're talking round peg into a square hole. You hit the nail right on the head. They try to force this guy to play a style of football that he's not used to playing. Dontari Poe, I mean, the guy's hungry. He needs to eat, and he needs to eat quarterbacks. Yeah. And when you say, look, man, we know you're hungry, but you just need to snack on these blocks and let our linebackers, and that's essentially what they were doing, man. Let Poe eat. Poe wants to eat. Let him eat, and that's the thing. You don't get to be 350 pounds by not eating, and that man, he needs to eat. And
can we make that shirt? Let Poe eat.
Yeah, that would be cool, right? Let Poe eat in an AA. I think we could definitely. Hey, you're the marketing genius, man. I think that you could probably make that happen. Get the NFL license slapped on that and charge $45 a T-shirt. So
there we go.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, and you look at that, and I was not being a huge college follower, and admittedly, I'm not. I kind of rely. I cram before the draft. I'm like
I'm the same way.
Look through all these players, and I mean, I watched the stuff on Poe in the combine, and was like, this dude's 350 pounds and running like a 4.5 or whatever he ran.
4.5.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I know that's fast. I mean, that's smoking fast, and it's like, holy cow. And then and the Chiefs.
That's as fast as like what Priest Holmes ran.
Yeah, and this dude's 350. I mean. Watch the tape of him sacking Romo against the Cowboys in week 2. I mean, he gets to Romo quick. Once he clears that center and he swims around that center, he gets to Romo fast. But, I mean, I was like, because I wanted Kuechly too. I'd watch the film on Kuechly, watch the YouTube highlight reels and all that stuff. It was like, man, this dude's awesome. I can't imagine him lining up next to DJ. And then, the Panthers take him, and it's like, ugh, now what, And then they take Poe, and I'm like, because I was still very much in my that was in the death throes of my Homer moments with the whole Pioli administration, like in Scott I trust, still holding out hope that they were gonna, and they bring the kid in, and I thought, well, here we go. But you're right, he did absolutely nothing last year, absolutely nothing, because they tried to make him play the wrong style of football. Not that what they were doing was wrong, well, it was, but it did not fit the personnel that were on this team.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I'm with you there. The other guy from that 2012 class I just wanted to touch on a little bit, just because I'm kind of excited to see him grow, is Junior Hemingway. He came in, and I think he's the guy that probably took Terrence Copper's job.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's been that kind of guy who had been with us the last couple of years, filling in some of those receiver gaps. And this Michigan kid came in. He's looked, really good in practice and the preseason, and I'm really excited to see him kind of step up. I don't know if Avery is going to be our someone that we're going to keep around for a good time or not. I think I like Avery's speed. I like him across the middle, but I'm excited to see them kind of build on Junior Hemingway a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's good to watch. One thing I like about Junior Hemingway is the few balls that have been thrown his way, he catches. Yeah. He doesn't miss a lot of those catches. Had the big touchdown. Against Jacksonville in the back of the end zone, real aware of his feet, something that you don't see a lot in young guys. I mean, coming from college, they only got to have 1 foot in bounds kind of thing. I mean, he was sure to get that second foot down, difficult catch in traffic. So, I like him, and I'd like to see him grow in this offense. And, another one. But, if you look back, like I said, the last 4 draft classes prior to the 2013, the 4 that Pioli was responsible for, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 starters out of those 4 draft classes. 10 starters that Pioli drafted. Now, it's kind of one of those things, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Pioli drafted him to play one style of football that wasn't working, quite obviously, as the team, these guys all played on the team last year, and they were 2-14. So, it's one of those things, but it's funny to me to look back at the legacy that Scott Pioli has left, and really, I mean, the only legacy the guy's got left in the building is the draft picks that are still on this team, and, it's just interesting to me to see that they're still performing at a high level. I mean, the guy did pick some pretty good football players. Like I said, 10 starters on when you're talking. There's only 22 starters, so half of the guys that are starting, offense defense combined, half of the guys that are starting are guys that Pioli drafted. That's not horrible.
No, it's. I mean, like I said, I what I liked about Pioli is, I mean, you could tell the guy has a nose for talent. I mean, that's what he did in New England. New England has become notorious for finding talented guys to play weird roles and make it happen. They've built a whole entire team off of no names. And, not to say that our team is necessarily a lot of no names, but it's definitely, I think, some of the more underrated guys that were out there. No one thought Suckup was going to be the kicker. No one thought Tyson Jackson, Dontari Poe. No one else had a lot of these guys pegged very high. And like I said, we got a steal with someone like Justin Houston, but I think he had the nose for talent, and I think that's a little bit more where it was handy rather than his style of coaching, that he would anoint. I didn't like Todd Haley from the get-go. So, but I think now that we have the coaching a little bit in play, I think we could really take some of that talent and build on it, and you're starting to see the build of that already with this defense. I mean, we really don't have these huge, like, if you look at some of the other defenses in the leagues, we don't have players that national football fans know. We don't have, these huge big name players that, are on a lot of these other defenses. We have a bunch of guys who people are hearing for the first time this year. They're like, oh, who's, I mean, Tom Bahali, had some decent, already, his name was out there just a little bit, but no one was talking about Justin Houston. No one was talking about, Eric Berry. No one was talking about, Flowers. A lot of these guys were just kind of, good players, but now, people are starting to notice.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the team starts winning, they're 7-0, and all of a sudden it's like, and I'm not saying bandwagon fans. I mean, the Chiefs fan base is notorious for being one of the most dedicated fan bases, in all of sports, not just football, and the addicts out there. I mean, you guys, we've all suffered through, the ups and the downs. I mean, even 2010, and Chris, you said this a couple shows ago, and I'm just going to echo the sentiment. In 2010, the last time the Chiefs won the AFC West, they were playing horrible football. They were just winning. I mean, by hook or by crook, I mean, Matt Castle was still the quarterback. I mean, so we as Chief fans have kind of suffered through bad football for a really, really long time. And so, we know these guys, but you're right. I mean, and even the guys calling the games, I feel like some of these guys, and now it's like they're starting to figure it out. Last week you got the top CBS crew calling the game, Jim Nantz and Phil Simms, and it's like even those guys, I feel like they were the night before, like reading the program, like who Don Tario, how do you say this cat's name again? So, yeah, and it's it is, but I think as this team continues to win and continues to prove that they're legit, you're going to have more of these people talking about them. I mean, just right before we started the show tonight, I had NFL Network on, and they were talking about the Chiefs are going to, the Chiefs are going to be 8-0 at midseason, which is kind of brings us to our next point and looking ahead to this weekend's game. The Cleveland Browns coming into Arrowhead. This is the first of two games where it's based off of the Chiefs' schedule from last year. Posted an article Friday evening to this evening talking about strength of schedule and how the schedule is built in the NFL. And without kind of rehashing that, this game and the game next week are the two games this season that the Chiefs will play that are different than the rest of the AFC West, with the Cleveland Browns this week and the Buffalo Bills next week. But what are your thoughts on the Browns? Are they a team that can that can derail the Chiefs' hopes for 8-0?
I don't think so. I think. I mean, obviously, I think anybody who's a fan of the NFL and has been following the Browns, not even this year, but the last couple years, the Browns have a tough defense. They're a hard-nosed, hard-hitting group of guys that have a couple really talented guys on their team. But the problem is, and it always has been, that their offense can't put anything together. And then this year, Whedon, I think it was pretty apparent from last year into this year that he wasn't going to be the guy. I think he has flashes of brilliance, but his consistency's low, doesn't really get it done. And then when Whedon went out and they brought in Hoyer took him on a 3-game streak, and they're like, oh, this guy gives, our team some life. And then when he got hurt, I think a lot of the Browns' heart went out with them, because like coming in and being a bad football team, having a quarterback come in and take you guys to a 3 wins in a row, and then losing him, I think they're crushed right now. The Chiefs know Campbell really well. Jason Campbell's going to be getting the start there. We've played against him plenty of times in Oakland. I think we know how to get under his skin. I think we're going to be really familiar with how to be aggressive there. Cleveland has 0 running game. After they traded away Trent Richardson, their running game is pretty much non-existent. So that's even going to allow us, I think, to even be more aggressive. When we don't have to prep against the run, it's going to allow us to come after the quarterback. So when we come after the quarterback and then they have Jordan Cameron running up the middle, it's going to allow Derek Johnson to play in coverage. They're going to have him one-on-one, I think, all day against Jordan Cameron. And he's somebody that can cover Cameron. He's the athletic, big guy who can still run fast and keep up with Jordan Cameron. So, he's, I think, their biggest threat right now. Where are you at on it? Do you think, they're going to be able to pose any threat? Obviously, I think we both think their defense is up to par, but do you think they're going to be able to pose any sort of threat offensively?
That against the Chiefs defense, no, I really don't think so. And I'm high on these guys, but just kind of scrolling through their stats. Obviously, Jason Campbell getting his first start with this team this season. and you're right. He does know this. Well, I mean, to say he knows this Chiefs team is not really, because I mean he hasn't played the Chiefs in a while. He hasn't been in Oakland in a while, but I mean he's played the Chiefs before. The Chiefs are definitely no stranger to Jason Campbell, and he did beat him twice the last year that he played for Oakland, the last two full games that he played. So there's that. He is a bit of a mobile quarterback. He tends to stand tall in the pocket. They've got that receiver Josh Gordon in Cleveland that can get downfield pretty quickly, and then of course the tight end that you just mentioned. But you're beyond that, you're absolutely right. I mean, those are their weapons. That's it. And it's kind of one of those things. You lock those guys down by either putting Derek Johnson, like you said, on Cameron, or even Eric Berry, who has really stepped up his coverage abilities this season. And I think that you completely shut down their offense. If the Chiefs' offense can get it going this weekend, if they can start putting and stringing some third downs together, converting, this could get ugly quick for the Browns. I think. I'm not a believer in the Cleveland Browns by any stretch of the imagination. I think that the 3 wins that Hoyer got them was really just kind of. It was just guts and blind determination and the hometown kid coming in and the great story that it made. And I think you're right, Chris. I think him going out with that blown knee, as terrible as that is, I mean, I think that is what sucked the wind out of, out of the Browns team as a whole. Plus they've got all this controversy going on. Is the team trying to, has they already given up on their season by trading away Trent Richardson? And I mean,
what's your
they're
take
talking
on that,
about.
by the way?
I don't know. I mean, if you look at what Richardson's done in Indianapolis, I think the Browns got a steal by getting a first-round draft pick for him. I mean, he's not a Jamal Charles. He's not he's not even like a Ray Rice or a Frank Gore. I mean, he's a big bruising back, but I don't know. I've got him in fantasy, and he pisses me off every week, so I don't even I'm kind of down on Trent Richardson. But, I was hoping that his stats would improve when he went to Indy with working with Luck and having that passing attack where, it would open up those lanes for him. But I don't know. I mean, when did that trade happen, like week 4 or whatever? That's a little early to give up on a season, but, and then Hoyer comes in the next week and they win without him, so what does that say? But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess really the biggest part hopes is that this is the week that the offense kind of breaks out, and so I'm really hoping for a more of a New York Giants-esque score, somewhere along the lines of like 35-10 or something like that. I mean, I'd really like to see the offense just go nuts and score some points and show that they're clicking, but. I mean, unless they're going to do it with some of the vanilla stuff that they've been running lately, kind of, I think, holding their cards close to the vest for Denver. I don't know. So I guess my prediction on this one would probably be 21-10 Chiefs.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I have 24-10. So I kind of am right on the same page with you. I think our defense is going to really turn it up this week. Not to say that we haven't in the past weeks, but I think it's going to allow us with the no rushing game. I mean, this is the, first team we've played since the Giants that have really had like zero, no rushing game. And so you kind of saw what happened there. We had a bunch of turnovers. We really dominated the full game. And then that in turn, allows our offense to really go out there and, be aggressive. So I think the no running game there is really going to put them in the hole and give us the win.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only thing I think that kind of makes me nervous that still always is at this point, they are the only unbeaten team with Denver losing last week to Indianapolis. Thanks, Andrew Luck, by the way. But the Chiefs have a huge target on their back right now. They are. Every team that they play from here on out, whether it means anything or not, is gonna I think is gonna try that much harder to be the team that knocked them off the pedestal. And you look back to that 2003 team that went 9-0. The Cincinnati Bengals weren't even that good that season, and that was the team to beat them and stop them from getting to 10-0. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those. I hate to use the words trap game because it seems like every week is a trap game now, but. I don't think that happens with this team to that end. I mean, if they lose and something happens, I mean, it's in any given Sunday league. I mean, we say that. Everybody says that. They made a movie about it called that. Any given Sunday, any team can beat any other team. Everybody thought that the Denver Broncos were unbeatable until they got beat. So, but, I don't think that the whole trap game thing applies to this team. And I think that because I think Andy Reid has got them bought into this mindset of, you're 7-0. Enjoy it for a day. We're back to work tomorrow because we've got another game this week, and we're back to 0-0, and we need to win a game. I mean, and that's the mindset I think that he's got instilled into this team. They're not reading their own press. They're not believing their own hype. They're going out every week and just trying to win that football game. They're not looking ahead to the Broncos. They're not looking ahead to the Chargers. They're not looking ahead to the playoffs. They're trying to win that game that week. So
they don't have that luxury because they hadn't got any wins in the last 3 years. So, when you come from that poor of a string of, years, then when you're getting the wins, I don't think you can take it for granted. I think every single win is a big deal to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that the guys that have been on this team, the Brandon Flowers, the Derek Johnsons, the Dwayne Bowes, the Jamal Charles that have kind of been through that roller coaster of ups and downs. I mean, I think that those are the guys that are going to keep them grounded. And then, even to a degree, a guy like Alex Smith, who has had some success or been on a successful team the last 2 years and has had some success with that team, I think he comes in and really kind of puts the exclamation point on the fact of how important and how hard fought every win in the NFL is. And then you got a guy like Andy Reid that's kind of just keeping that all together, that was on top of the world playing in however many, NFC conference championship games. And then last year, the 4-12 season going, it can all turn around in a minute. You can't take anything for granted.
Oh, no. No, I'm completely with you. I think it can kind of go either way. I think we can stay strong, or I think it's interesting. Now that I want to get your take though, you said you had us starting 10-6. I had us more at the start of the year. I had us originally about 8-8. Going 50, just about 50% there. But now that we're 7-0. With a pretty decent-looking schedule coming up, we have a pretty beat-up Browns team and a pretty beat-up Bills team going into the bye. What do you have our record at now?
Well, like I said at the top of the show, I'm hesitant to pull any of my losses that I originally had us slated for. So I said the Giants were going to beat us. Obviously, that didn't happen. I said the Texans were going to beat the Chiefs. That didn't happen. So that leaves 4 more losses out there that I had predicted at the beginning of the season. Two of those to Denver, and then I had us losing to the Washington Redskins as well as the Indianapolis Colts. So that's where we're at now.
You're thinking 12-4 now?
Well. No, I mean, my beginning of the season prediction, that's where I have us at. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out on a limb. Well, I don't even think it's a limb. I think we split with Denver, and I think we beat Washington. I'd almost say 14-2. Just the way that they're playing right now. I hate to do that. I hate to look that far ahead, but I'm going to say no worse than 12-4. No worse than 12-4, but probably closer to 14-2.
Yeah. See, and I have us 12-4 now, because I think I said this last week. I remember you said you were talking about splitting with Denver, and I have the 2 losses to Denver and then Colts and splitting with the Chargers. So just because the Chargers have been playing such good aggressive football. So that's kind of where I have us now. But, I think the 14-2 is attainable if we play, if we come in and play how we played last week, how we played in against the Giants. And I think I was pretty adamant about this last week, and I'll say it again, is I'll tell you what, if Alex Smith comes out and throws for 300 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns, I don't think there's a team in the league that can beat us.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we'll talk. I mean, obviously more in depth about this Denver game. You know, just like the team, just like anybody else, I don't want to get too far ahead of where we're at. You know, it's always good to look ahead and kind of take stock of where you're at, especially since we are just about to the midseason point. But you know, Denver has been exposed, you know, to that end. So that's all I'll say about that. But I mean, they were exposed. The Indianapolis exposed them, and the ESPN Power Rankings reflect that exposure. The Chiefs now stand alone at the top of the ESPN Power Rankings. We talked about it, you know, earlier this week on ArrowheadAddict.com. You know, kind of to commemorate the occasion of the fact that they do sit at the #1 position in the power rankings, which a lot of people disagree with, but you know, that's tough. I mean, it is what it is. They're the only undefeated team in the league.
Yeah.
I think the biggest shocker to me was that Indianapolis jumped up 4 spots and leapfrogged Denver, and they've got Indianapolis at #2, Denver at #3. I mean, what's your take on that? You think since the Colts beat them, they deserve that #2 spot?
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty crazy to have, you know, the Colts' 2 losses weren't even to that spectacular a team. So, you know, I mean, just because a team can get hot for a week or two and beat some really good precedented teams, I think it's tough to give them that jump. I personally think the Hawks should probably be there. You know, I think they are really similar to the Chiefs. I think they have a little bit bigger play offense, but they seem to really match up really similar to us with the big play defense and then an offense that can manage the game. You know, and I think they're up there for probably the #2 spot in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that, and folks listening, he and I did not talk about this before the show, but actually just had this conversation with a big Seahawks fan on Facebook, an old friend of mine, you know, and he said something about, you know, I posted something about the Chiefs, and he said, well, I wish they were a more balanced team, and I said, what, like the Seahawks? And he said, exactly, and I said, come on, man, the Seahawks are the Chiefs in the Pacific Northwest. They're identical teams, and you just hit the nail on the head. They've got a huge, hard-hitting, you know, high-rated defense. They've got a quarterback that's obviously younger than the Chiefs quarterback, you know, Wilson, and he's got a lot of upside, but he's mobile. You know, he'll use his feet to make a play. You know, he can throw a bit of a deeper ball, but you know, who's he throwing to? You know, Golden Tate. You know, Rice is, you know, there, and you know, some of these guys. But my point is that their offense is built around beast mode Marshawn Lynch, much like the Chiefs' offense is built around Jamal Charles. So, you know, very, very, very similar teams in the way that they're made up, and you know, both having success with it. You know, and I would be inclined to agree with you that, you know, if you're talking about the, you know, the power rankings, which these things are fickle. I mean, they fluctuate so much from week to week and whatever. But if you look down, you know, as you scroll through, the next AFC West team, as we start kind of wrapping up the AFC West here, is #12, and that's the Chargers, who go into their bye week at a 4-3 record. So #3 in the AFC West, but you know, definitely not out of the fight at all as far as a wild card slot goes. And then you know, the lowly Oakland Raiders all the way down at #28, who, while they show flashes of brilliance, are still a couple years away from even being able to sniff the word contender. So, but that's kind of what it looks like as we move into the weekend and we take a look at the other games going on around the league. Obviously, you know, the Chiefs playing host to Cleveland, but the other AFC West games, you got Pittsburgh traveling to Oakland as Oakland comes out of their bye week. Who do you got in that one?
Well, you know what? I think Pittsburgh might come out and beat Oakland here. You know, Pittsburgh has been playing some horrible football, but I think they have enough talent and enough veteran status on that team to come in. You know, obviously, you know, their defense hasn't played up to snuff to where they usually play. Their offense is kind of all over the place. They haven't been able to really do anything in the red zone, which is normally their forte. So I think they're going to come in and get the win in Oakland. It'd be nice for us if they did kind of separate us out there even a little bit more, but I think Pittsburgh pulls that game out.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. Like, I mean, and I just said, I think Oakland is a couple years away from really being a contender. And, even though they're coming out of their bye week, I don't see them beating Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's starting to pick it up. Obviously, Todd Haley is the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. He's very familiar with that Oakland team. So yeah, I think Pittsburgh gets that win. The other AFC West game is the Broncos coming off of their Sunday night loss last week against the Colts. They're playing host to RG3, the other rookie phenom from last year, who's not having as good of a season as the guy picked right before him in the draft. In the Washington Redskins. What's your take on that one?
Well, I think the Broncos are going to come back and rally against it, but I think Washington is going to give them a run for their money. I'm going to take a stab and start RG3 on my fantasy team this week, and hope he's been kind of hit or miss, but I'm hoping. With that Denver's got to do something about that pass defense. It is just horrible. Everybody who plays them, I think, it really opened. They knew they were bad, but I think it really opened their eyes last week when, the Colts did what they did to them. There wasn't even a semblance of pass defense there. So, RG3, I mean, I think he puts up that threat. I think Washington has a good team and has a good enough run game to balance out a nasty pass attack. So I think it'll be a close game, but I think Denver does pull that one out.
Yeah, I don't see the Broncos dropping 2 in a row by any means, but I think this is going to be a very similar game to what we saw a couple weeks ago with Denver and Dallas. I think it's going to be high scoring. It's probably going to be a fun game to watch. It's the late game on at 4:30, so 4:30 Eastern time. But I think it's going to be another 45 to 40, 48 to 45 kind of thing. I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth. And you're right. I mean, Denver's defense. And I'm going to make this point real quick since we're talking about Denver. Their defense is garbage. I don't care that they are the number 1 rated rushing off defense. This is why I don't care, because nobody's running against them, because the teams are already down by 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. They can't afford to run the damn ball. Yeah. So I don't want to hear anybody else say, well, Denver has the number 1 rated rushing defense. No, they don't. Those numbers are skewed, and if you took a half a second to read the stats, you'd understand that. So enough on.
And, I mean, outside of that the fact that they're down by so much, it's the offense is also going, why would we even run the ball against these guys when you can pass all day?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to hear any more about Denver has the number 1 rated rushing defense. It's stupid.
No, it's garbage.
So there we are. I mean, that's kind of that. And as we draw this episode, this edition of AA Radio to a close, any final thoughts, Chris?
I'm just excited more than anything. It's a Friday night here, and it's about to storm outside, so I'm huddled up and gonna call it a chill night tonight. And I showed Jason earlier hanging out with Horatio, the Kansas City Hippo, here tonight. So just gonna have some fun and get ready for Sunday. Maybe go to the grocery store, get some nachos or something for Sunday.
Yeah, it's nachos sound good actually. Yeah, it's same here. I mean, I'm down in Texas. You're up in Washington. The storm's rolling in here. It's supposed to rain all weekend here, so it'll be a good way to spend my Sunday. A rainy day outside and some wings and adult beverages and watching the Chiefs roll to 8-0. For the first time since 2003. So, folks, addicts out there, want to thank you for listening and thank you for watching, whichever medium you choose to jump on this ride with us. It's always a pleasure, and we'll keep making them as long as you guys keep listening. We're doing pretty well in the ratings. There's about 1,000 addicts a week that come out and listen to us. So if you're one of those 1,000, we appreciate it. Make sure you spread the love and let your friends know about it. Check us out at www.arrowheadaddict.com/AA radio. That's where we're at. You can find all the back episodes if you want to listen to us or watch us there. So for Chris Kilduff, I'm Jason Seibel. Keep it red, keep it yellow. Go Chiefs.
Just send me and we the Chiefs.